Panama has officially informed Beijing of its decision to withdraw from China's massive infrastructure and investment project, the Belt and Road Initiative, the country's leader announced on February 6.
El embajador en Beijing presentó el documento correspondiente de acuerdo al convenio de anunciar la cancelación con 90 días antes, creo que dice el convenio. Así que esa es una decisión que tomé.
At the meantime, the U.S. State Department claimed that U.S. government vessels would be able to pass the Panama Canal without paying a fee. Mulino said that the U.S. was spreading lies and falsehoods.
A mí me sorprende muchísimo el comunicado del Departamento de Estado de ayer, porque están haciendo comunicado importante, institucional, de la entidad que rige la política exterior de los Estados Unidos bajo el presidente de los Estados Unidos en función de una falsedad. Y eso es intolerable.
The Panama Canal Authority issued a statement late on February 5, denying the claim from the U.S. State Department earlier in the day that Panama's government had agreed to no longer charge crossing fees for U.S. government vessels, in a move that would save the U.S. millions of dollars a year. Worldwide News reports.
On Thursday, February 6, U.S. President Donald Trump authorized new sanctions against individuals involved in international criminal court investigations into U.S. citizens and allies Israel. The sanctions are a repeat of actions taken during his first term and come during Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit. The move targets people involved in investigations, including Israeli officials tied to the Gaza conflict. The sanctions will freeze any U.S. assets of those designated and prevent them and their families from entering the U.S. The ICC, which prosecutes individuals for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide, has not commented on the latest U.S. actions. And coinciding with the sanctions, Israel announced it would withdraw from the United Nations Human Rights Council, following the U.S. lead. Israel's ambassador expressed frustration with the council, calling it biased and criticizing the influence of dictatorships in human rights discussions.
The Human Rights Council has been a biased body since its beginning, with dictatorships lecturing democracies on human rights. Israel has previously disengaged. This is not the first time. We're from the Council in 2012 and in 2018, both times hoping that there will be some dramatic reform, there will be some change. Yet to no avail. In the face of this blatant anti-Semitism perpetrated by mandate holders, the Human Rights Council is silent.
While Israel is not a member, the move still carries significant political weight and has drawn disapproval from some UN rights experts. Worldwide News report.
President Donald Trump signed an executive order on February 5 to exclude transgender girls and women from female-designated sporting competitions and teams.
Under the Trump administration, we will defend the proud tradition of female athletes, and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
Trump indicates that women athletes need a true fair competition.
Female athletes have been forced onto the front lines, and men claiming to be girls have stolen more than 3,500 victories, that's a lot, and invaded more than 11,000 competitions designed for women.
The order directs the Department of Justice to ban transgender girls and women from participating in female school sports under Trump's interpretation of Title IX, a law against sex discrimination in federally funded education programs, and the order will call for immediate enforcement in schools nationwide.
With my action this afternoon, we're putting every school receiving taxpayer dollars on notice that if you let men take over women's sports teams or invade your locker rooms, you will be investigated for violations of Title IX and risk your federal funding. There will be no federal funding.
The debate over transgender inclusion in sports has often centered on fairness, with opponents saying that people who have gone through male puberty have physical advantages. Transgender activists say there is no evidence to show that transgender women have an unfair advantage. Worldwide News reports.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu defended Donald Trump's controversial proposal to displace Palestinians from Gaza, suggesting that there was nothing wrong with allowing Gazans, who want to leave, to do so, while emphasizing the need to rebuild the area. In the interview, Netanyahu argued that Gazans could relocate temporarily and return later, while Israel stays committed to without U.S. military involvement.
But the actual idea of allowing first Gazans who want to leave, I mean, what's wrong with that? They can leave, they can then come back, they can relocate and come back, but you have to rebuild Gaza. It's the first good idea that I've heard. It's a remarkable idea, and I think it should be really pursued, examined, pursued, and done.
After Trump's widely criticized announcement, Israel ordered its military to prepare for the voluntary departure of Gaza's Palestinian. Trump later clarified that his plan would not require U.S. troops, as the U.S. would take control after fighting ceased and resettlement occurred. Israel's foreign minister expressed that more details were needed, but that voluntary departures would be key.
We don't have details yet, but we can talk about principles. The principles must be everyone that is ready to immigrate, wants to immigrate from his free will. It is moral to give him that option.
The forced displacement considered a war crime under international law. Global criticism has mounted. The Palestinians have also made it clear that they do not accept the relocation plans of Israel and the United States.
يحكي وزير الدفاع على انه يتم تهجير اهل قطاع غزة، فيش امكانية، هذه بلدنا وارضنا، احنا متمسكين فيها لاخر لحظة، احنا بنستنى بعد سنة ونص، نستنى زي الطفل ما بيستنى اكله وشربه، بحيث انه ما فيش لنا ديار ولا في لنا بيوت، وعلى الركام نزحنا وعملنا خيامنا وقاعدين.
Worldwide News Report.
If we don't have religious liberty, then we don't have a free country. We probably don't even have a country.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on February 6th he would create a White House faith office and direct Attorney General Pam Bondi to lead a task force on eradicating what he called anti-Christian bias within the federal government.
This week I'm also creating the White House faith office led by Pastor Paula White, who is so amazing.
He said he would sign an executive order later, appointing Bondi to be the head of a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias.
You don't hear the anti-Christian bias. The mission of this task force will be to immediately halt all forms of anti-Christian targeting and discrimination within the federal government, including at the DOJ, which was absolutely terrible, the IRS, the FBI, terrible, and other agencies.
The actions could pose constitutional questions about the separation of church and state, with the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment limiting government endorsement of religion. Worldwide News reports. On February 5th, demonstrators gathered in Washington, D.C., as part of a larger nationwide protest. Protesters voiced strong opposition to a range of actions taken by President Trump's administration, including attempts to dismantle the U.S. Agency for International Development. Protesters, including former USAID workers, spoke out about the impacts these cuts would have both domestically and abroad. Meanwhile, in New York, over 100 protesters gathered in City Hall Park, calling for the rejection of Project 2025. The project aims to implement controversial measures, such as criminalizing abortion pill distribution, eliminating the Department of Education. Protesters also criticized the influence of Elon Musk, who was appointed by Trump to lead the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, accusing him of wielding unchecked power over the federal government.
Look at what Elon Musk is doing in the Treasury right now. It's a complete coup by a handful of people who are not elected. Nobody voted for these people. They're subverting our democracy. People are being sent to Guantanamo Bay for being illegal immigrants. It's crazy. I don't think enough people are seeing what's going on.
And that is where the constitutional crisis is, that Trump, the executive, is completely usurping all other powers in the Constitution.
Many protesters raised alarm about what they called an overreach of executive power. Worldwide News Report. Dozens of shiny decades-old sports cars, from Ferraris and Bugattis to Porsches, filled Paris Grand Palais on February 5th, on the eve of an auction that would delight car aficionados. Around 100 vintage vehicles were on display in the Grand Palais, to the delight of visitors ahead of the sale.
On a réussi à rassembler un certain nombre de lots de collections privées absolument exceptionnelles qui vont à la fois de la Ferrari 166 mm ou de la Ferrari 555 jusqu'à par exemple des 2 chevaux, des Ligier JSP2. On a une très grande variété de voitures.
2 rare Ferrari models headline the auction on Thursday, a 1950 166mm Barchetta and a 1955 555 Super Squalo, both with a value estimated by auction house Bonhams of €4 to €6 million. Leading the Bugatti lineup in the sale is a 1928 T43 Grand Sport, expected to fetch €1 to €1.5 million.
Nous avons également un maillot du footballeur Messi, qu'il a porté durant sa jeune, à ses tout débuts, et qui est assez exceptionnel, en tout cas pour les amateurs de sport automobile ou de foot. C'est quelque chose qui doit être évidemment extrêmement rare et extrêmement précieux. Voilà.
On the sidelines of the car display on Wednesday, a jersey worn by Argentine football star Lionel Messi at the beginning of his career was also on exhibit. Worldwide News reports.